Uh, the idea for this webinar just came out 4 days back, and that is when I had a word with Ajay. And because on a lots and lots of social media, like we were talking right now, on social media, yeah, I've even seen a lot of articles coming in on mainstream, saying that cryptocurrency is just junk. There is so much of hype about it, and the higher you go, the harder you fall. Those kind of words are floating around. Now the point is that most of us do know there is something called crypto. We all know that there is something called distributed ledgers. We know that there is something called Bitcoin and many others. But what exactly are they? We Most of us have just no idea. Uh, there is one very good, very good ex fund manager in India whom I follow on Twitter, and I respect him. I read one of his blog 2 days back. There he says it is the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. That is one side. On the other side, we have world's biggest wealth manager, BlackRock, getting into it. US biggest banks are getting into it. There are retailers who are accepting bitcoins all across US, all across Europe and Japan and South Korea, etc. They're accepting it as for payment of small things of everyday use also. There are Bitcoin cards available. In fact, last week I was subscribing to some financial service of a guy based in UK. So he quoted a price to me and said that if you pay in Bitcoin, the price is 10% lesser. So these kind of things. So there is a lot of noise, lot of discrepancy in what we are consuming in the media today. This is precisely why we are holding this webinar, and we have two people who've seen everything that can go right and wrong with cryptocurrency and such like things. So today the aim of this is not at all to suggest to the participants here, to the attendees here, whether they should buy bitcoins or not, where will it go. That is not the aim at all. The aim is to put you wise on what is all this thing about. How did it start? Where is it right now? How does it work? What are the negatives and positives of this kind of a investment avenue? So here we have with us two people whom all the attendees would very, very readily connect with. Why? You'll come to know when I introduce them. So on the right side of the screen, we have Shantanu Sharma. He started his career with the Indian Air Force, training to be a fighter pilot, and I'm reading out what he gave to me. And he still carries the Josh in his wings. So now these are the kind of words that we respond very well to. Okay, so he's an entrepreneur and a business professional with more than 20 years of experience with big MNCs like PwC, Polaris, NIT, etc. He's currently working as the head of growth and marketing for EasyFi Network. It is a lending protocol and blockchain. We'll also talk about blockchain, how does it work, because that is where all these cryptocurrencies are originating from. He has also been a blockchain and cryptocurrency trainer, consultant, and advisor, and is working towards evangelizing this industry in India and overseas. He's also the creator and host of Hard Folk. This is India's first TV talk show dedicated to cryptocurrency and blockchain, which was aired on Amazon Fire TV and also on YouTube. And I personally have seen plenty of his episodes, which are available on YouTube, and they are fabulous. He also showcases other people who are in this blockchain and cryptocurrency industry. And anybody who wants to go beyond this webinar and learn more, I would strongly recommend you to Google Hard Fork and go through a few webinars that he's done. He's a certified Bitcoin professional. He has also completed a course on digital currency from the University of Nicosia. He is often seen conducting workshops, panel discussions, seminars, education programs, and roundtable discussions on cryptocurrency, blockchain, and related technology. So we are very, very fortunate. And I was very happy when he agreed to be on this webinar that we have so hurriedly put together. On the left side of your screen is Group Captain Ajay Alawat. He is an IAF veteran and a veteran of huge standing repute. He took his premature retirement in October 2017. That means more than 3 years back. And he joined civil aviation. He's currently a pilot with an air charter company. He's NDA 89th course. And of course, proudly, my squad, Juliet squad. He's a fighter stream guy. He was CAT A instructor, and he did a staff course from USA. So you can know within the forge what was his standing. He is also a crypto veteran. So he's a Fauji veteran and he's a crypto veteran. He's been dabbling in crypto since early 2016, which means it has been more than 5 years that he's been dealing with crypto. So he's a very, very big and passionate user of cryptocurrencies. He has first-hand experience of, he's very proudly written, of the various scams, of misinformation, as well as the benefits of investing in crypto. And he's familiar with fundamentals of blockchain, crypto platforms, things like that. So we all are very fortunate to have both of them here. And I'm very happy that they have agreed to answer our very, very basic, starting from very, very basic questions. So the word blockchain has come in, right? And blockchain is the building fundamental of all these cryptos. So the first question that I'm putting together to Ajay is, what exactly is meant by blockchain? This is a word which is being bandied around quite a lot. And once you explain us what is blockchain, I will also request you to go over to what are cryptos, how are they mined, how does the whole system work as such? Ajay, over to you, please.
Hello, sir. Good morning, and good morning to all the esteemed members who are attending this seminar. To kind of capture everything about blockchain in a few minutes is a very difficult task, but difficult is something which is exciting. So there are at least 4 things that people must understand to understand blockchain. One is blockchain itself. The other words that are bandied about is distributed ledger, nodes, and trustless system. So in about 3 minutes, I will try and answer all these 4. My first request is for these 3 minutes, so please clear your mind of anything that you read about blockchain. Just assume you don't know anything. Just clear the slate for a while and give me those 2.5, 3 minutes. Okay, let's start with blockchain. As the name suggests, there are blocks in a chain. So consider a train actually. So each bogie of the train is a block. So what does each block carry? 3 essential things. Data. Now, like a train, it could be people, it could be oil, it could be maybe coal, or what you carry on the block is the creator of the blockchain's prerogative. And the other 2 things are identity of the block and hash. Hash is some kind of fingerprint. So hash determines the identity of the block, and it also carries the identity of the previous block. A train is physical, it's on the rakes or rails actually. So it's easy to discard bogies which are not connected on the blockchain. But these blockchains that we're talking about, they exist on the internet actually. So one bogie is here, other bogie is somewhere. For them to connect seamlessly, they must know which block I'm connecting with. That's where the block ID or the hash or the block identity comes into play. But why would somebody create it actually? What was the need? Blockchain as a concept first came in 91, 92, when the big corporations, especially the banks, wanted to go paperless. They wanted to move their ledgers on computers. The computers started coming in big way. So they said, okay, no need of any paper ledger. Let's keep it all on a computer, keep it folders. But the trouble was somebody could go back, change a file, and put it back in the same folder. So how would you know? So that's when the blockchain as a concept came, that each information is a block. You could consider day's transition as a block, tomorrow's transition another block, day after another block, and all these blocks are connected. So the blockchain design is such, you change anything anywhere in the block, the rest of the chain becomes useless. So if I'm operating in today's block and somebody trying to tinker with information which or transition which had taken place 1 month ago, my block will become useless and I'll know immediately that something has gone wrong with the chain. So this was the system of blockchain. It lied, people didn't use it much till Satoshi Nakamoto picked up in 2008 and he wrote his paper on Bitcoin about it. Now comes the concept of distributed ledger and a trustless system. He wanted a currency which is not controlled by any third party, not controlled by any central bank, not controlled by any government, not tied to any currency or national currencies. So he thought how to go about it. Then he picked up this concept of blockchain. He said, okay, so here is a thing which can store information, which can also make sure the information is not tampered with. Let me use the blockchain and write my currency concept on top of the blockchain. But if the ledger is with nobody, it has to be with everybody. So then came the concept of distributed ledger. Every transaction that takes place on the blockchain is visible to everybody. Anybody with a computer can decide to carry the ledger. So if the ledger is everywhere, it makes it impossible to fudge it actually, because you can't go to everybody's computer and fudge it. So he said this blockchain will be carried by anybody and everybody who wants to carry it, and every second will be updated. So a valid transaction gets recorded in everybody's computer, and if somebody tries to fudge the data, it'll get rejected by consensus. So that's where the word of trustless system came. Traditional systems depend on trust, like land records. The MCD in Gurgaon keeps the land record. Somebody there working there finds out this plot belongs to the government and he can fudge it, that belongs to Lala Lajpat Rai and I'm the descendant of Lala Lajpat Rai. The system works on trust. We trust people who own the information to not finger with it. But he said, my system does not rely on trust. Please go ahead, try as much as you want, modify as much as you want, but the ledger is distributed to so many entities that you can't. You make a wrong entry, it will be rejected because it does not exist on anybody else's ledger. But to keep this blockchain going, he had to reward people who would host this blockchain or give space on their computer or processing power and all that. To reward people who would maintain this blockchain and make more blocks on which more information can be carried, he incentivized them by creating something called as Bitcoin. So the word mining is actually making new blocks on which more information related to Bitcoin transaction can be stored. So two things are there. One, you have to store the existing transaction in form of blockchain somewhere, and anything else that happens must also be recorded in a block and stored in a new block. So Bitcoin is nothing but the reward for maintaining the blockchain. So in brief, this is what mining is. Now, specific to Bitcoin blockchain, as I mentioned, blockchain was just a vehicle actually. He wanted to create currency. So he created a blockchain in which he gave people work to do. Maintain the blocks, maintain the blockchain, create new blocks. And if you create new blocks and maintain the blockchain, you'll get rewarded with Bitcoin. Once the coin is created, the whole concept was no third party is required. It is not controlled by any central bank. It is not controlled by any government. It is not really tied to any currency. The value of the coin is decided by the people who use the coin. If everybody decides there is no value, actually there is no value, it can go to zero. But if people using it decides there is value, then there is value. the next question was, why would people use something? If we could, we are actually more or less paperless kind of economies. We send money, we receive money. So why would people use this kind of currency? He said, because your national currencies are there. The word used is in the crypto domain is fiat. Actually, fiat is Latin word which says by decree of the government. Even your paper currency is notional. Today, most of the economies are printing money like crazy. So obviously, it lead to inflation and the value will go down. Demonetization. The government by a decree said, okay, this is no more a legal tender. So the value of the so-called money you hold is controlled by the government. He said, I don't want the money to be controlled by any government. Therefore, this concept of Bitcoin came in. I think this is good enough to start the discussion, and we can go into more granularity as we progress further.
Fabulous. You gave it to us in very short. So, of course, it will take time to sink in. It doesn't sink in 5-10 minutes only. But I'm very sure as we go by and by in this webinar, we'll get more value and understand what you just now said. So, Shantanu, now this question is to you that, Ajay has said that this is how crypto came into being, and this is what the basics of cryptocurrency are. Of course, trustless means more trust actually, right? So that is the way I look at it. Now, when we talk about cryptocurrency as such, there are so many names going around. Bitcoin, everybody knows. Then Ethereum, also people have started knowing a bit. Then you have Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, and you have XRP, which went through some problems in US. So there are so many things. Now there are 2-3 questions that crop up in mind. What are all these things going around? Who's creating them? Can anybody create any kind of currency? And what are they designed for? Somebody says this currency is like ETH is meant for day-to-day use, while Bitcoin is basically a storehouse of value. These are the various things that are given out.
Yeah,
So we would like to know what are the different types of cryptos, what are they to be used for, what are their categories, etc.
great. I think thank you very much for having me here with you guys. I think it's pretty honorable and it's an honor to be with you guys. I think in order to understand cryptocurrency, Acha, is it okay, sir, that if I can use a combination of Hindi and English both? You know, it makes it, I become very, colloquial sometimes, and it helps explaining in Hindi as well. So what
You
happens
know how
is,
Fauji's understand.
yeah,
So
yeah.
carry on like that.
Sure, sir. So I think it's very important to understand, one which he said that, cryptocurrencies, came into being as a process of, knowledge that, hey, the banks are now failing us. So in 2008, when Satoshi Nakamoto came out with this project, he says there was a reason why he did that. Okay, there was a continuous process of banks failing towards for the public. So banks were making people rich, more people rich, the ones who own money. So the idea was to create something which basically can be used by public, by the people, owned by the people. Okay, that kind of a scenario is what you want to create. That's why the Bitcoin thing came into being. But now Bitcoin was the first currency or the first blockchain which was invented. After that, when people started saying that, hey, what he did most best thing was that he says, hey, this project that I've created or this source code of my Bitcoin software is free to use. It's open source. All right. So I am not limiting it to myself. I am opening it to the public. जिसको जो समझ में आता है, आप मेरा सॉफ्टवेयर यूज करके आप अपने सॉफ्टवेयर्स बनाओ, आप अपने कॉइन्स बनाओ, आप अपनी क्रिप्टो करेंसीज बनाओ. All right. So that open source is what started creating this, the what do you call the flood of cryptocurrency that you see in the market. All right. Now, what did people do? Some people realized that, hey, this is a good thing. This is an interesting stuff. They downloaded the open source software and they created something. The first software beyond Bitcoin was called Namecoin, and then Peercoin. These were all. So Namecoin was more of like what you use for GoDaddy or domain registration. Right? तो आपने डोमेन रजिस्ट्रेशन करनी है, आप नेम को यूज करोगे. ऑलराइट, तो दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग व्हाट दे क्रिएटेड. As things passed, okay, people started realizing that, hey, why should we only use a software source code to create a coin or something which can be used as a currency, right? Why can't we use the source code or a platform where we can store a source code? हम contracts को store कर सके. So if I suppose sign a contract with Hum Fauji and say we'll have to have a lawyer from my side, a lawyer from your side, and what you will do is then we will negotiate, and then we will sign the contract. But that contract also has to be notarized somewhere, and there'll be an SLA given there, and each SLA has to be met before I can invoice you or you can invoice me. So there's a lot of rigmarole as far as legalities is concerned, the accounting is concerned. All right, but the possibility of a logic being made in a source code, in a code, is very easily done. So if I have to do a contract with you, I can put it in a software, and we can simply say, as soon as the software says, okay, this job has been done, the money gets transferred. So that logic can also be stored on blockchain, is what somebody came up with. All right. So hence what started happening was people started using different source codes, people started designing their own products, and that's how Bitcoin and Bitcoin related source code related coins started coming in. They started using it for different means. All right. But if I have to really categorize what kind of cryptocurrencies are there, so I possibly will say there are two different kinds of cryptocurrencies. One, I would suggest, let's call it a coin, and the other, let's call it a token. All right. A coin is something which has been created by the system itself. जो उन्होंने mining की बात करी. All right. Now mining को अगर मैं थोड़ा और simplify करूँ, it's like an accounting process. All right, wherein when a transaction takes place, all right, then somebody who's doing a transaction gets the reward. That's what he mentioned about incentivization. तो जो कोई भी बिटकॉइन के ट्रांजेक्शन्स को पॉइंट ए से पॉइंट बी पहुंचाता है और ब्लॉकचेन नामक लेजर में जाके पोस्ट कर देता है, बदले में उसको एज अ रिवॉर्ड बिटकॉइन मिलता है. Right? So it's like an incentivization process wherein you say, because see, all the nodes you find, all the miners जो होते हैं वो अपना एक they put their own effort in that. It's a voluntary process, so you have to you're a volunteer in the Bitcoin network. So in a bank what happens is there is a banker sitting there who charges money for the transfer of money. Okay, so point A से point B को 100 रुपए गए, तो बदले में बैंक ने कुछ थोड़ा सा चार्ज किया और तीनों के लेजर्स में स्टेटमेंट्स में उसने नोट कर दिया. But in the blockchain there is no central bank. Okay, so who will do the transaction? Who will do the transaction monitoring? Who will do the verification? That is where the entire Bitcoin mining concept comes in place, wherein a computer is sitting as a third party, and the computer belongs to somebody, and it's a volunteer. He says, okay, I will support the system. आप transaction करिए, हम इस system से आपको हम reward देंगे. So as soon as somebody transfers, some bit of Bitcoin is transferred to the guy who is monitoring and verifying the transaction. That's how Bitcoin comes into circulation. Okay, so these things are called coins. Coins are sense of codes which are residing in the system, और वो system के transaction के जरिए निकलते हैं. Okay, now this is what coins can be called. There are approximately 550 different kinds of coins which are being made by the system itself. They are not freely available. Only when a transaction takes place, that is when the coin is released in the market. All right, that's what coins are. So they are basically called intrinsic to the project, to the coin, to the token. दूसरा हो गया token, which are basically called they are project backed, they are asset backed, okay, and they are released in one go. So for example, if I say I have to build an oil plant, all right, मुझे एक oil plant बनाना है और उस oil plant के लिए मुझे पैसे चाहिए. कुछ तो पैसे मेरे पास हैं, but the rest what I will do is I will come to all of you and say, hey, these are the shares of the company, come and buy my shares, all right, and based on which you will get some shares from us. आप मेरा share खरीदेंगे, I will get the money with me and I can build this oil plant. All right, so I am having a project, and what do? I issue my shares to all of you and you buy it from me and I get funded. So all these project backed tokens or asset backed tokens are tokens or which are built for a particular reason. So say, for example, if I talk about my company, EasyFi Network, what we do is we are building a lending protocol, and a lending protocol requires money to be made because this has to be built on blockchain. So what do? We come to you people and say, hey, I have a company. I would like to build a lending protocol, and I'm issuing tokens instead of my shares. So what do? I say my tokens will be used for certain reasons within the system, which I'll come to. But what do I need? I need money from the public, and I will issue them my tokens. All right. What do I get? I get the funds. The other people जो जिन्होंने फंड किया है उनको मेरे tokens मिलेंगे instead of real shares of my company. But the token has to have some utility in the market. All right. So like what Ajay said, that there were a lot of scams. There are indeed a lot of scams within the projects itself. So people have to be aware. I'm sure we'll have a separate segment. We'll talk about that as well. But coins are intrinsically born systems, or things like Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, XRP, sorry, not XRP, Monero, and all those. There are a lot of the 550 coins that are built. The others are tokens, which are basically been designed to fund projects, all right, and so that we can build something around it, and you get a token around. That's what coins and tokens are. So if you have to differentiate, you have to first read through the entire documentation as to what up. Say up, you have here, you must be reading the red herring prospectus or the the IPO का document आता है, वो आप पढ़ते हैं. उसी तरह से जितने भी projects होते हैं, they come out with a white paper and a documentation, and you to understand. So you have to have better fundamental understanding of that. That's what thing is. I hope I have not confused people more.
Govila sir, I'll quickly jump in with two, three.
Yeah, please.
Abhi to, like most people here understand securities. What Shantanu said, that एक oil plant बनाना है तो share बेच दिए, कहते हैं तो पहले ही होता है. This is happening in market. You come up with this thing, you make share, sell it. How is this bloody crypto ने क्या कर दिया इसमें? The only difference is if the token is on a blockchain by very nature is open source. Everybody can see it, what is happening, how it is happening. It's never hidden. It's always transparent. So that's the only thing. And BTC transactions, like if I want to use my Bitcoin to buy a cup of coffee, transaction can take up to 10 minutes to verify. So I can't wait for 10 minutes at the counter for the transaction to verify and for my coffee to be served. But that was a design feature. It was designed to take up to 10 minutes for a new block to form, so that the whole consensus network, even people with slower network, can verify, okay, this person who's spending it is a legitimate owner of this thing. So that's when the need came, we need something faster. Ether main role is obviously, as I said, to store smart contracts. Contract to pehle bhi hote the, but blockchain wale contract open source hai, anybody can see it. So Ether transitions are faster. But there's a third kind of coin, XRP. There's an owner. He made the coins and he said, use my coins. It'll make the banking transaction faster. Credit card transactions or bank to bank transfers. It'll make it faster and cheaper. So that's why there is a case filed by the US regulator. Actually, he said, you operating under the rules given to cryptos, but you are actually a security. There's the owner who's created it, and you selling it for a fixed amount. So value rises, you gain. The network does not gain. The owner gains it. And the third kind is the stable coins, because people needed a value. So there's USDT and USDC. And the creator, they sought their approval from the regulator, say, okay, 1 USDT will always be backed by US dollar. So if we release 1 billion USDTs, we will have 1 billion USDT in our bank account. So USDT is the crypto, and US dollar is the fiat money. So that it pegs the value of BTC or other crypto.
Yeah. That is what is known as the asset-backed token. So the asset here is the fiat currency. It says 1 billion tokens, so 1 billion US dollar bank mein hone chahiye. Right? And these are two examples. He's given USDC, USDT. There are 50 more stable coins in the market. But how do you verify whether the the stable coin is actually backed by an asset or not? So they have to get audits done and all that stuff. So that also happens. But yes, this is the case. So each token has to have a equal amount of value put in the bank. That's what it is.
Okay, right. If that be so, this USDT example that you've given, it also brings up another point. From what I read, most of the central banks are thinking of launching their own cryptos, their own cryptocurrency. I mean, China is already in, very much in. They have already, and their aim is the Olympics, when they'll formally launch it for the world. But I think almost every country has said that they are working on their own crypto. So how does it compare with the cryptos which are already there? The USDT example is glaring in that respect. And what is the future of the cryptos which are already launched when the central banks of the world start launching their own cryptocurrencies?
Ajay, you want
You
to take
want me?
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. The cryptos is a concept. It will survive if only adequate number of people believe in it or buy into it. Right now, that we not reach that stage. Bitcoin or other cryptos will survive if they actually become day-to-day usage. Actually, if I buy my iPhone from BTC, or if I take my student loan on Ethereum smart contract, then probably we could say they are here for good. And we not reached that point as yet, especially here. But there are, in some countries like Canada, Japan, Singapore, US, and China to some extent, we have reached that stage already. So central banks naturally will protect their turf. And why would a central bank allow any other currency to operate? So first phase was this fight between central bank and cryptos. Banks almost everywhere tried to curb it, curtail it, or crush it based on the affiliations of the central bank. It didn't work. So the next phase now is, forget central banks. Facebook will launch its cryptocurrency, Libra. And Facebook launches it, I'm quite certain even Google and Amazon will come out with their own cryptos. So the next phase will be institutions, central banks, and major corporates. They will launch their own cryptos. When that happens, the next phase will be crucial. If there is a seamless interaction between the traditional cryptos like BTC, Ether, and likewise, and the central bank cryptos and the cryptos launched by the major corporations, if they are interchangeable like dollar rupee or dollar pound kind of thing, then these obviously the cryptos will become part of mainstream and they'll continue. If there is a contest at that stage or a conflict, then the outcome of conflict will actually determine the future of crypto world. If I have to put my money, I'll put it on BTC.
I'll add to that, just to help people understand the entire thing is the central bank currency will not be a cryptocurrency. It will be known as central bank digital currency, right? And the only difference here is the central bank digital currency will be the legal tender for the entire nation. So agar Indian, so if digital yuan is coming, the digital yuan basically is the legal tender for the entire nation of China. All right, that's what it is. I would not call it a cryptocurrency. Yes, they are using the blockchain technology. They will use the technology to move things around because, and it will be encrypted. But I want to differentiate between a fiat digital currency because unke monetary policy same hogi. All right, how they create the money today, they're going to create it later on as well. There is no deflationary model like what we have in Bitcoin. कि भैया आपका सिर्फ 21 मिलियन ही अवेलेबल है पूरे दुनिया में सिर्फ 21 मिलियन बिटकॉइंस ही होंगे उससे ज्यादा नहीं होंगे and that's inbuilt in the source code. You can't change it. But here today I can print INR as much as I want. I don't know how much dollars have been printed. Zimbabwe printed itself to hyperinflation. All right. So now how is it different? So one reason why I don't call CBDC or a central bank digital currency as a cryptocurrency, you have to differentiate. दूसरी बात होती है कि जो क्रिप्टो करेंसीज बनती है ना, apart from being a payment methodology wherein I say, okay, I want to buy a sense of coffee or I want to go buy a something on the retail store. In fact, you can buy from Virgin Atlantic or Virgin Space, you can go buy a ticket to the space and in Bitcoin. So now so that's one part. So one payment method ho gaya. दूसरा ये है कि most of the cryptocurrencies have been built for internal transactions. All right. Say, for example, I'm using the Ethereum platform where I'm storing my smart contract. Now, when I store my smart contract, I don't pay dollars. I pay Ethereum as the internal transaction. If I have to send money to Colonel Govila, I send to Colonel Govila either through INR or Ethereum. So when I send you Ethereum, the internal transaction fee is paid in Ethereum. All right. And same goes for all the other cryptocurrencies there. So not only are they built for an external payment system, they're built for internal payment systems. All right. And these are large projects. Today, the entire cryptocurrency market, okay, if you go to a site called Coin Market Cap, you will see a number on top. It's called 8,000. So there are 8,000 cryptocurrencies available, which includes stable coins, project coins, tokens and everything. All right. Now, all those 8,000 coins have some project in mind. All right. They will be used either as a utility somewhere or for governance somewhere or for payment somewhere. So I think despite CBDC, okay, cryptocurrencies are here to stay because they
So,
have to be used.
yeah. So, what Ajay said and you said, I've realized one thing that these digital currencies, you said CBDT?
CBDC.
CBDC. Okay, these
Central
CBDCs,
bank digital currencies.
yeah.
Yeah.
So these CBDCs are closer to your credit card and debit card than to cryptos, right?
No, they are crypto-backed credit cards now. I mean, you can get it today. I mean, you ask for it today, by probably 2 days later, it will be shipped to you. You
Yeah.
use it as a normal credit card.
Yeah.
You probably can't go to an ATM and pull money out, but you could do everything else with it, actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
CBDC.
absolutely.
So CBDC is like your normal Paytm money. To be very
Absolutely.
honest, okay,
Yeah.
you are using Paytm to transfer rupees to somebody else.
Mhm.
So a CBDC says, okay, we will do away with the entire set of paper currency, and everything is going to be on on digital, so that you can track. So the primary aspect is, when you're doing a cash transaction, very private affair. You can't track it. Okay, I think one reason probably why Bitcoin was also built, so that it's a pseudonymous system, and you know i- if I'm sending money to you, Bitcoin to you, Colonel Govila, तो सिर्फ आपको मुझे पता है कि हमने एक दूसरे को भेजा है. आपका एड्रेस मेरा एड्रेस पब्लिक है, but nobody will know who the person is. That's what pseudonymous means. But there are ways and means where I can go backtrack and all that stuff. I can do that. But audit कर सकते हैं उसको, forensic investigation कर सकते हैं. But ideally, a cash transaction is absolutely private. So what the governments want is, why should it be private? Why should any transaction be private? Let's convert the entire thing into digital and track everyone.
Yeah.
That's what CBDCs are trying to do.
Okay. Okay. Right. So you also talked about various types of currencies. Do these currencies, do these cryptos talk to each other? Are they convertible one to other?
Now they are. Okay, so there have been systems which have been built wherein there is an interoperable layer between them. Directly नहीं कर सकते. Okay, for example, if I have to make Bitcoin talk to Ethereum, I can't do it. So there has to be a conversion layer between, which in normal sense is now being built. It's not still very mature, but there are blockchains which are interoperable. So I can transfer from Bitcoin, the Bitcoin converts into something, and that something converts into Ethereum and goes to the Ethereum chain. So the chains in themselves are not really interoperable right now. But I'm sure we will see a time wherein we'll have that system as well.
No, but on exchanges you can transfer. I mean, on an exchange, I can
Right.
convert my one BTC to Ether anytime I want, actually.
So those are conversion layers which are available. Okay, if I want to do it. For example, if I want to convert one Bitcoin to USD or one Bitcoin to Ethereum, I can do that because there is a conversion layer in between. But the chains in themselves, so a Bitcoin chain or an Ethereum chain, they are not interoperable right now directly.
Okay.
But I can't send Bitcoin directly to Ethereum, Ethereum directly to Bitcoin. That will not happen.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to know. I mean, when you go through an exchange, then obviously, it is like today's fiat currencies also. You want to convert from INR to dollar, you go through somebody and it gets converted to dollar. So there is a medium required for that purpose. Now, one question that rises from what you two have said is that will this cryptocurrency ever become mainstream? Because because these central banks are too powerful, they themselves go about printing anything, any amount of money, and what is happening today. And that is why, things like dollar are going down so badly nowadays. But won't they become the central banks will become useless themselves if these cryptocurrencies come into play? So do you think it'll really become a future, or will all these cryptocurrencies always remain on the fringes? What do you say?
Actually, this is very difficult to predict because central bank, with all its might and with government backing and with formal and informal coalitions of the governments like G20 and all, they would always fight to keep the central bank relevant or the national currency relevant. Actually, so it's a very difficult call to predict whether cryptos will eventually replace the national currencies in paper form or digital form or any other notional form. What I said a little bit couple of minutes ago, what I see from here is central bank launching digital currencies, big corporates launching their cryptocurrencies, and the traditional cryptocurrencies coexist for some time. And the use cases will decide the future. Actually, if after say 5-10 years people find more faith in national bank issued digital currencies, they will start using it because the convenience of cryptocurrencies will come through the national currencies as well. They might shift to the digital currencies actually, or if they find they're very deflationary, I mean, they saved money but government printed too much of digital currencies, the value is going down. On the other hand, the BTC value is going up. They might want to stay invested in BTC, or they might want to diversify. It's difficult to predict. If you ask me to make a prediction, I'll say they'll coexist for at least 20-30 years.
I agree with you. I actually, I had a argument about a week back with somebody talking to me about USDT and how valuable US dollar is. And I said, there are people, there are companies within the US who are hedging against dollar, and they are putting the money in Bitcoin. Only in the last 2 weeks, more than $30 billion worth of Bitcoin have been bought by the hedge funds, by people like Grayscale and Morgan's, Creek. Everyone is buying that. Why are they doing that? Because they understand that the fiat currency system is failing us in many ways. All right. Now, having said that, as you said, they will coexist. They will have their own means. And I also believe that if I have to have a cryptocurrency, existing in the system or in any ecosystem, then there should be some amount of regulatory, bindings around it. All right, because otherwise people will get scammed left, right, and center, which has happened in the past. All right, and so I said there are 8,000 cryptocurrencies available. Not all of them are, good for investment or good for anything for that matter. But there are certain cryptocurrencies which are bound to stay, either as a store of value or as a payment method, external or internal. Okay, they will definitely stay put. But I also think that central bank digital currencies will probably change the game even for the cryptocurrencies. The existence of central bank digital currencies will probably up the ante of the cryptocurrency, of the cryptos that we have. So I think they both will coexist. I'm saying 10 years, 10 to 15 years, and then we will see a breakout of some of these cryptocurrencies who are going to do fantastic things beyond the central bank premises.
I'll make two observations and invite your comments on that. One, yesterday I read an article saying gold is going down because Bitcoins are emerging as the storehouse of value. So it is not the other way around, that because gold is going down, so Bitcoin is going up. No, they are saying that because Bitcoin is becoming more popular, so gold is going down. That is one very important observation. Second observation on which I would like your comments are, whatever has happened in the pandemic, and every country has printed money in trillions of dollars worth, India too, and US, everybody knows what's happening. So does this hasten up the decline of fiat currencies?
I'll pick that up, Shantanu.
Yeah,
Sir,
please do that.
Actually, one clarification is required here. There's a flurry of messages on the screen below. It's neither me or not Shantanu are advocating or recommending that people invest in cryptos per se. This is not an investment advice because none of us are qualified. So there are a couple of messages coming on the screen that says it's not good and all that. Yeah, absolutely, it's not good. If people don't like it, they should not invest in it. People don't understand it, they should not invest in it. So maybe one clarification is required here. It's we are sharing what we know about it. Coming to the question per se, the gold BTC correlation. Actually, you can't eat gold or can't do anything with gold. We say gold is store of value because we all recognize it as value. So likewise, now more and more people are recognizing BTC as value. That's why it's become store of value. And the turning point was with major houses jumping in, PayPal, JP Morgan, and a couple of names you called out in the beginning. So this is a big turning point. When big houses start considering BTC as store of value, then a lot of small houses start following them. Then a lot of retail investors start following them. So I do agree. There is a uptrend in people or institutions assuming BTC to be a store of value. That's why more money is going there. And money is coming out of gold towards BTC. The second aspect was fiat. I mean, fiat has value only if there is limited supply. If the governments, which they have the natural right to print as much as they want, it's as simple as that. I mean, anybody can predict more printing you do, the lesser the value becomes. And you can't do anything. The governments have the final say on that. But when we have a store of value like BTC, it's not controlled by a government. It's controlled by the network. So I predict that there'll be more and more institutions moving towards either gold or crypto and moving away from the national currencies.
See, I'll add to that. The only way that you can create value, all right, for your own wealth, okay, own money is by putting money in precious metals, which was earlier the case. And now people are starting recognizing Bitcoin. But when you look at the timelines of the value that we have created, it probably has taken 10,000 years for gold to reach a value today, wherever it is. And today, as you said, it's just an ornamental value or a backup value. All right, it's not really any value that you can use every day. Whereas Bitcoin, on the matter, has just taken 10 years to reach $41,000. All right. And in fact, it just happened in the last 3 years. I bought my first Bitcoin at $450 in 2016. And it is $41,000 today. ये बात अलग है कि मैंने बीच में बेचता गया सारा, ठीक है? Okay, but at the end of it, it's all about your own semantics. Where do you want to take your value wealth to? If you find value in gold, you will do. So yes, I always advise people, add value, अपने wealth बढ़ाओ, लेकिन वो wealth कितने fast बढ़ानी है, उस पर decide करो. अगर आपको लगता है कि गोल्ड में वैल्यू फास्ट बढ़ेगी तो आप करेंगे, आप उसमें लगाइए पैसा. एंड बिकॉज देयर इज ornamental value, especially in India, all right, people buy gold, all right, यहाँ पे खरीदते हैं हम लोग. But when it comes to Bitcoin, the wealth is increasing. There is a reason behind the wealth increasing. All right. Yes, I have bought Bitcoin because I find it, I know the technology, I understand technology, and hence I believe that the value will be here to stay. So when you said that the market says that gold की value गिर रही है क्योंकि Bitcoin फिर लोग पैसा यहाँ से निकाल के वहाँ लगा रहे हैं, it's true. It was true the case. People said, okay, let's not put money in gold, let's put money in Bitcoin. That's far valuable. Why? Because I put 1,000 rupees today in gold, probably in 10 years it becomes 2,000. Whereas if I put $1,000 in Bitcoin today, God forbid, I mean, कल 2,000 हो जाएगा. So that is the kind of state. But yes, people have to understand the volatility of Bitcoin and the volatility of gold as well. All right, because they are two distinct things. All right, जितना volatility gold में नहीं है, उसका 4 गुना आपके Bitcoin में है. You have to understand that.
Absolutely, fully agreed. Now, we've talked about broader things so far. Now I'll come down to more practical things which everybody on this webinar is wanting to know, right? Number one is the reason why cryptos are booming now, especially Bitcoin. It started making first page news of all the newspapers also. Bitcoin has reached here and it is booming and all that. So why is it doing so? What do you see as the future? People have still not forgotten 2018 when Bitcoin had crashed. So they say that, is this also a flash in the pan kind of thing? So what do you say? Firstly, the reasons why it is going the way it is, and what do we see as the future? uh, and I'm not asking it as an investment advice, but just as you two who understand these things, what do you see?
The current rise is speculative, 100% speculative, and the rise is driven by big guys shifting their money into BTC. The real change will come when the retail usage starts. As I mentioned, when you buy your phone or coffee or maybe house or car. So that bit has not really started here. It has started in some economies. In most of the Scandinavian countries, Northern Europe, even in Canada, you could spend it like credit card money. But that really, the rise of value is not commensurate to that kind of use case. So it's mostly speculative right now. And I am no market expert, but I think it will go through a couple of corrections, but will keep rising. I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question, sir?
See, one was this: why is it booming, and what do you see as the future? Will once this speculative thing that you are referring to, once this dies down, so it'll become like any other fiat currency? Is it so?
No, fiat currencies are controlled by the central bank.
Yeah.
This is controlled by the network. That is
Yeah.
the big idea behind the crypto, actually, that it is not controlled by anybody. The network controls it. And coming back to the first part, right now, my reading says it's mostly FOMO. The term uses fear of missing out. A lot of people are jumping in. So the value today is little more than what it should be. But in the long run, I say about 2 to 3 years, we will see it little bit higher than what it is today, because more and more institutions and people will start using it like the money is supposed to be used, is to buy, sell stuff, and or maybe keep store of value and all. So that's what I see. Maybe Shantanu can comment on.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely right. I'll just explain people what happened in 2017. 2017, the price in August was approximately about 1,000, 3,000 something, 3,500 odd, and by the time December came, it was $20,000. All right, and in January of 2018, it fell from $20,000 to $2,800 in a span of just 15 days. So 20,000 से $2,800 पे गिर गया था. So that is what the comparison people make. The price has gone to 41,000. Now will it fall? Yes, it will fall. That's the nature of the cryptocurrency, and that's the nature of Bitcoin. People will profit out of whatever investments they've made. All right. But here, so you have to be very careful that, the asset still is very volatile, very volatile. So abhi itna bada hai, girega, zarur girega. All right. And that's what people have to understand, because the nature is such. Having said that, what is the future? I would like to connect the future with the launch of CBDCs. I think when central bank digital currencies come into play, there is a speculation that probably that is when the volatility of Bitcoins, especially Bitcoin, will also stabilize. All right, and come to a point wherein you can actually predict like any other, people are predicting. People जो charts पढ़ना जानते हैं, वो predict कर देते हैं कि देखो ये breakout है, यहाँ पे curve आ रही है, यहाँ पे ऐसा हो जाएगा. So they keep on predicting that. But it's not very, it's not 100% correct as such. So the future says that I believe in the next, as others said, that we need to, we can only mainstream it by allowing it as a payment methodology. Can I use my Bitcoin for buying newspaper? Can I pay Bitcoin in India to buy a car? Okay, that is where the actual use case will come. But I don't see it happening for Bitcoin. Okay, I see it happening for other coins. Why Bitcoin? Bitcoin has now been labeled as a storehouse of value, and hence people will want to put money into it. It's called the digital gold, right? That's where I see it. FOMO, fear of missing out. People are putting it money. That's what they're buying it. And but also I want to warn people here is that when look at uh, or not all cryptocurrencies are decentralized or not owned. There are, as I said, around 400, 500 cryptocurrencies which are decentralized and are printed or come into circulation based on the transaction methodology that they have. All the rest are project backed or asset backed tokens. So they have a central agency or central company which owns that particular coin. So you have to be very careful as to what token you buy. Okay, if you have to do buying it. This is the advice, not a buying advice, but advice for people to understand how to understand what is good or what is bad. So that's what I
Yeah.
believe. So future of cryptocurrencies, I think the value is going to be here to stay.
Yeah. So that's very
Govila
well
sir,
put.
one quick point actually. If you're looking for signposting, then couple of things actually. Adoption by Visa, adoption by MasterCard, launch of Libra, the Facebook crypto, and the launch of Chinese USDC. I mean, if you're looking for signposts, then these are the events that you should look for. And as they happen, we will know the
Yeah,
vector for future. Actually.
I
yeah,
think all four have happened.
more or less, yes.
I mean, Chinese has launched, though in only in limited cities.
No,
Then,
announcements have happened, sir.
yeah.
Let's see how they will happen. I can say, but reasonable certainty that they will happen. Even Visa will happen. Mastercard will follow. Libra will come. Yuan will come, and I'm certain that the Japanese are not too far behind. I think they are. Their political instability, once that thing sorts out, they are about to launch their own crypto based national currencies.
India is not too far behind, I think.
India is researching. So I know people in the RBI I've met and said they have said that they are researching CBDCs very deeply. All right, and they are doing that. Um, I wanted to say something, I forgot. Okay, so so yeah, so I think when you look at signposting, he's absolutely right. You have to look at these signposts. And okay, I wanted to say that Facebook Libra name has now changed to Dime.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what it
Dime.
has become. Yeah,
Correct.
it's become Dime.
Oh.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
Visa or Mastercard may not have launched it, but PayPal, it has adopted it. So that is, I mean, one of the a very 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 big indicator, right? Okay. Now a question which is also coming on chat and which lots of people anyway have been asking me personally: how can an Indian buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies? Simple question.
No, very simple answer actually. A bunch of these exchanges came up in India in the first wave of cryptos actually, and RBI came out with a circular saying that no bank should deal with people dealing with cryptocurrencies. So most of those exchanges shut down. Now that circular was challenged in the Supreme Court, the circular was withdrawn. Now legally, exchanges can be set up in India, which can allow people to buy, sell cryptocurrencies. Actually, there are a few of them. You can pick the one of your choice. I mean, Unocoin is there, WazirX is there, BitPNS is there. Once you go to the website, they will ask you to log in, password. They will do your KYC. They would ask you to link your bank account with their exchange. So through your bank account, you will send fiat to that exchange. On that exchange, on that day's rate, you can buy whichever cryptos are listed there. And then you can maintain fiat as well as crypto on that exchange. Anytime you want to sell, you sell it, convert it back to fiat, and the money will go back to the same bank account from which the money had come in. This is what you can do on Indian exchanges.
Yeah. So
At
there
the
are Indian
same time,
exchanges.
bunch
Sorry,
of
Ashwin.
them actually. And in
Yeah, yeah,
fact,
there are.
the nature of crypto is such you don't have to restrict yourself to Indian exchanges. You can open an account in Kraken, which is one of the finest in Japan, Poloniex, the US based, Binance, actually, the China based. Any of these you can go and open an account. Only thing is, the current regulations state that they would accept money from a bank account and they will send the money back to that bank account. If you're looking for recommendations, I would say amongst the Indian exchanges, ZepPay would definitely be my recommendation, and WazirX, Unocoin, and BitBNS.
ZepPay, of course. Yeah, sure, of course. I think ZepPay is no longer an Indian company now. It's now moved to the US because the investors are in the US. And yeah, of course, WazirX hai, BitBNS hai. Then we have Bitpolo, we have CoinDCX. So I think I would probably
Unocoin is
recommend
there.
Unocoin is there. Unocoin was the first one. So yes, Satvik is a good friend. All the CEOs are good friends. So I think I would recommend WazirX, Unocoin, and CoinDCX for sure. Yeah, in India, you can buy. Don't buy it from any OTC, please, because you never know what happens. I've had cases wherein there's a guy who says, "I want to sell Bitcoin. Please come and buy it." So this guy took a lot of money with him, and he went over there. He was placed on gunpoint. All right, and the entire BTC was taken away from him. So be careful what you do. Okay, there are scamsters all around. So these three are places where you can buy. Yeah.
So
Any problem?
I don't know about Shantanu what he has faced, but Ajay, you faced some interesting times with BTC, right?
Yeah,
We both
I'll
have
give
faced.
you. We both have faced actually.
So if you can tell people so that they know that this might be seem like a great opportunity right now, but then they should be aware of what can happen and what has happened to in the past.
Okay, typical scams. First, exchange base. When you go to Google and say, I want to buy BTC in India, or even if you say, I want to buy BTC, the IP address based search engine will throw up some ads and all that. And as the Google page is designed, the top 3 or 4 are the ones those that pay to Google, and they say, okay, fixed return 20% in 1 year or something like that. So this is a red flag. Any exchange that offers you return, please don't go there. Any exchange that promises any return, even 1% or 0.1%, don't go there. Exchanges can't control return. The value of BTC is not determined by the exchange there. So don't go to any exchange or any platform that gives you a short return. Second, don't go to a person or an entity to buy your coins. You always buy it from exchanges. Once you stick around long enough on the exchanges, then you will figure out there are other places you can go. As Shantanu also mentioned, don't buy it from a person or an entity. Buy it and sell it only on exchanges. Other scams are you tell your friend comes to you, say, okay, I've got this great Bitcoin based opportunity. You invest 0.1 Bitcoin and it'll double in 10 months. You get 3 more members along with you, it'll double in 6 months. Once again, anybody who asks you to get more members, red flag. Anybody who assures you a rapid return, red flag. Get more members is different from referrals. Actually, most exchanges want to increase their traffic. So when you log in and become a member, they say, okay, why don't you bring your friends? Actually, we'll share a little bit of earning. That's different. Actually, referral is different from MLM based, promise return based, and anything which is not BTC or Ether or the currency that you thought you are investing in, tokens or coins with fancy names and all that. Desist from it. Only through exchanges, no assured returns. So no MLM, no making members, no assured. That's what I can say.
No assured returns. Absolutely. You cannot predict, please. And of course, I said MLMs. And one reason why, one thing I'm sure it's a statement which everybody understands, people who invest, is something which we always use, and it's an abbreviation called DYOR. Do your own research. Always, whether it's any coin or whatever, please do your own research. And I think in due course you'll understand and find out which is good, which is bad for yourself.
Okay. And the last question that I have before we take on the questions that are being posed on the chat is how once, let us say somebody's gone ahead and bought it on exchange, and let's say he's put in quite a bit of his money there. Should he let it lie on the exchange? He doesn't want to, do the trading or keep on selling or buying. Should he let it lie on exchange? Should he do something else with it? What should he do to ensure that his cryptocurrency, whatever it is, remains safe with him, and no scamsters, no hacking can take it away?
Very well
That's
put down.
very
Ajay, can I-
interesting. Shantu, go
Bolo,
ahead.
bolo,
You take
Ajay.
it.
So yeah, so I think for me, it's very important to like you rightly said that कि आप ट्रेड करने जा रहे हैं तो आप एक्सचेंज में रखे रहिए, वहां पे ट्रेड करते रहिए आप, okay? But if you're going to investment and you're buying from an exchange, please move it out immediately. All right, that's what I do. Okay, so if I buy it from an exchange, I move it out. Now, where do I move it out? There are two different kinds of wallets available. One is called a Bitcoin wallet, or sorry, a blockchain wallet, and the other is the hardware wallet. Okay, a hardware wallet is just like any other USB device which you plug onto your laptop, and you can transfer your bitcoins, your coins from there to that laptop, that particular device. तो वो आप इसको डिचार्ज करके रख सकते हैं. That's called a hard wallet, which is called a hot wallet भी बोलते हैं उसको. तो वो अगर आप खो गया, आपका USB ड्राइव खो गया, तो आपके coins गए. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, but the blockchain wallet is an internet wallet wherein you basically get to make your wallet on a mobile phone. Okay, any mobile phone, and this is an application which carries all your data on the blockchain. So it is not residing in your either on that app or in the mobile phone. It is not kept there. So saving your wallets is very important कि आप कौन सा wallet लेते हैं. इसमें बस ये ध्यान रखना होता है कि इन wallets में आपकी जो प्राइवेट कीज होती हैं या फिर आपकी जो पासवर्ड्स होते हैं, दे आर केप्ट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अ फ्रेज. सो एक 12 वर्ड फ्रेज आता है या 24 वर्ड फ्रेज आता है जो आपको कहीं लिख के रखना पड़ेगा. ऑलराइट, so if you're spending a lot of money, it is wise to take your money out of the exchanges into either a hardware wallet which you can buy offline and on an application which is directly connected to the blockchain. उसका एक फायदा ये होता है उस ब्लॉकचेन वॉलेट का, वो ये है कि अगर बाई चांस मोबाइल खो गया और आपने वो किसी पेपर पे लिख के रखा हुआ है या कहीं पे सेव करके रखा हुआ है जो उसकी फ्री जो प्राइवेट की होती है, you can buy another wallet, another mobile phone and start that again. You can just restore your previous balances just like what happens in a Paytm. That's what it has been made for. The only problem is इसको समझना थोड़ा सा tedious होता है. So you have to do a little bit of understanding of how to use your blockchain wallet itself. Ajay, you were saying something interesting you were saying, Ajay.
No, not interesting. Actually, you answered it right. If you investing in cryptos to trade, then you have to keep your coins on the exchange. But if you just investing कि भाई देखते हैं बड़ा बात चल रही है, let's put 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs, then don't leave them on exchange, because the coins on exchange don't really belong to you. They belong to the exchange. Exchanges get hacked. Very often they get hacked because they are lucrative targets actually. So if you going into cryptos as a avenue for investment, then go to the exchange, buy your coins and move to a hardware wallet or a blockchain based wallet. And very soon, in a couple of months, we will have online banks per se, which are not really exchanges. They will keep your coins safe. In fact, BlockFi is one of them that even pays you interest, actually 6%. You save your BTCs, you'll get back your BTCs only. The BTC will grow in value, you will as well as get some interest on it. And then they don't get into any kind of lending or trades, etc. and all that. So there are a couple of options. There is a website called CoinSutra, and I would recommend those who are looking to kind of do research on which exchange would suit them better or which wallet will suit them better, along with tutorials, they can go and visit CoinSutra. It's got some really useful tips and vectors to go through.
Okay, right. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Now we come on to the questions which have come on to the chat. And I'll take one question, which is right now one of the last questions, but very relevant. What is the income tax rule? Suppose you do invest in them and you get a good profit, you take out the money. So what is the income tax rule which is going on?
So the income tax rule of India says that as soon as the money hits the bank, all right, you have to explain where it has come from. And based on the entire year's income, which is credited in your bank, you pay a tax. That's how it works, right? It happens here as well. If you move your money from your bank to a crypto exchange, buy a crypto, wait for it to give you a profit, you move the entire money back to the bank. तो आपने 1 लाख डाला exchange में, आपने 1.5 लाख रुपए निकाला वहां पे. So you explain why the credit has come. So अगर 1.5 लाख रुपए है, you explain that 50,000 rupees is from the profit. So income tax rule says as soon as a credit hits the bank, you have to pay the tax. So that's how it works normally. So like any other normal tax, whether it is now you have to explain to your chartered accountant or to the government that this I got from Bitcoin, so it's a capital gain, whether it's short-term capital gain or long-term capital gain. Okay, all those kind of things you have to do an explanation of. It's an income, so you pay tax on that.
Okay, but one very pertinent question comes in, right? And I'm not talking here about about tax kachori. You have this. This is not limited to any geography. Cryptos are not limited to any geography. Now you buy on an exchange, and from there you shift it to a wallet. The trace is lost.
That's the whole idea of creating BTC was to
Yeah.
make central bank useless, actually.
Yes, absolutely. But
That was the
then
whole idea.
then I
No,
go
like-
and sell it in, I go and sell it in Mongolia.
You don't have to
Yeah.
go. You can sell it from here only.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, you can. And probably one reason why there was a huge meeting of the FATF and the FinCEN and all those kind of groups in G20, who basically wanted to find out whether we can do whether we can exchange information related to cryptocurrency related transactions.
Hmm.
But yes, while it is very easy to say that we will share information, it is absolutely difficult to audit and do a forensic investigation and all that. But ultimately, yes, it is quite possible that people are doing this. कि भैया हमने पैसा लगा के यहाँ से वहाँ भेज दिए. But if you're doing it through exchanges, it is trackable. कि भैया आपने कहीं तो move करे. Already कहाँ करे आप? If somebody has to, if the government has to come behind you and say कि भैया मैं पकड़ना चाहता हूँ आपको बताइए कहाँ से क्या explain करिए आप. They can do that. Right?
No, right
But,
now,
yeah.
it will depend on you or how accurately you want to file the returns. You invested 1 lakh, it became 1.5. But you use 0.5 to buy something, maybe a phone or something else actually, and then you took out 1. So you could legitimately say, I invested 1 and came out with 1. There is no gain. Right now, the laws are not adequate to capture it all. It is left to your good judgment.
Correct.
I think it is the last sentence which is more important. We are not trying to teach, like I said, tax kachori here, but it is very much a reality which can be done even today, and that is another reason why governments are so wary of this thing. They don't know how to handle, to the extent that as on today, huge number of Indians are buying cryptocurrencies, bitcoins in particular. But income tax department does not have a rule on how to tax it as yet. So I spoke to a lot of CAs, well-established CAs, how it will be tackled, because income tax department is talking about taxing it, but they have no rule as on date. So what these guys are generally saying is, it will be taxed not like an interest, it will be taxed more like a capital gain.
Yes.
And in all likelihood, it will be that if you've kept it for less than 3 years, then whatever gains you made will be added to your income. If it is more than 3 years, then it will be like a long-term capital gain, and indexation, etc., will be applicable, and 20.6% taxes, what will go on the long-term capital gain. But the jury is still out on it. Nobody has given it in writing as such.
So
that
I
is-
paid my taxes. I paid my taxes on all the Bitcoin gains that I've made, and for me it was short-term capital gains, which I had to pay. But yes, according to my chartered accountant, he says very clearly that this will be like any other digital asset which you are doing. So shares की तरह ही इसको अभी वो tax कर रहे हैं. So anything which
No, I
happens
tell
on
you,
the-
what is the problem? You said I made 5 lakh rupees, you add it to your income and you are in 30% slab, you pay 30% tax. The tax guy won't mind. Tomorrow, you show loss of 5 lakh rupees and try and offset the losses. Then the tax guy will not agree with you. Till the time you're paying him, it's fine. But
Yeah,
try and offset its losses. So as I said, the laws are not adequate at this moment to capture it.
Yes, yes, fully agreed. Fully agreed. Now, one question that has come up is that if you have CBDCs, why should anybody subscribe to cryptocurrency? Though we've answered it, but because it has come as a question, so I'm asking. When
No,
suppose
CBDC,
come in,
yeah, CBDC just changes the currency note to a like it's like money in your pocket wallet to money in your Paytm wallet. That's the only
yes,
change. But the central bank can print it like crazy, actually, as much as they want. In fact, it's easier. It's a click of button. They don't even have to go to a mint to buy paper and ink and all that. CBDC makes printing extra money much easier for the central bank.
yes,
So
yes, they don't have to print it physically.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question that has come is, how do we find the exact value of Bitcoin? Which is the most reliable place to find, let's say, at this very moment, what is the value? Because all the other exchanges, etc., they are showing different values of, let's say, Bitcoin at any given time.
Google.
no,
Just
not
type
really.
Google.
Your value is where you can sell it. It's okay. Like, I mean, if you have an account on Coinbase and it says one BTC is 30 lakhs, even if Unocoin is showing it 32 lakhs, for you the value is where your coin is. Now, if your coin is in a hardware wallet, you can plug it into any of these exchanges and sell it as long as you are registered on that exchange. So the value is wherever you can sell it, or the value is from wherever you want to buy. These differences in value are what creates arbitrage opportunities, and there are bots and people and supercomputers working on it. The moment they see a gap in value, they rapidly move in and close it. Actually, so the value per se is the gap in value is very transitory and very small. For you, it is wherever you can sell it. Actually, that's the value for you.
Well stated.
One very good question. It's a very logical question asked. With PayPal now allowing BTC transactions, does this not indicate retail presence? PayPal is primarily a retail kind of source. So PayPal coming in means there is retail presence. So is the rise actually speculative, as you have said?
No, PayPal got it from 10,000 to 20,000, but the current value about 40,000. I mean, if Visa and Master also had come in along with PayPal, I would have said probably yes, actually. So PayPal has probably brought it to a point, then you say, okay, ab zero nahi jayega. Yeah. The first guy who spent Bitcoin spent 10,000 Bitcoins to buy a pizza. Actually, two of them, one thin crust and one big one, actually. Two pizzas for 10,000. He could probably buy the entire shopping complex with that now. So yes, PayPal, when it moved from 10 to 20, PayPal was the factor, and I think it made sense. But now 20 to 40 and rushing towards 50, it will go to 50, but it's too soon, actually.
Okay.
So I think, see, the value is also increasing because there are bigger banks or bigger hedge funds, bigger investment companies, which are also putting in a lot of money there, right? And for example, if I say about Grayscale Investments, they had put approximately $16 billion in the last 2 weeks to buy, a lump sum amount of Bitcoins. There are big hedge funds which are buying Bitcoin directly from mining companies. All right, which basically means a miner. मैं माइन करता हूँ, मेरे पास में कंप्यूटर्स रखे हैं, मेरे आज 2 बिटकॉइन निकले तो मेरे से 1.5 बिटकॉइन खरीद लिया उन्होंने. So that's the OTC part. So the OTC sales which is happening is phenomenal, based on which, because miners sell to exchanges, miners sell to over the counters to these guys as well, the investors as well, and hence the global prices increase. All right, but yes, 40,000 is a huge amount of money. It's still speculative. I think around $10,000 to $12,000 speculative. All right, and people are going to profit from this, so they're going to book their profits now. So be wary. I always say buy. It's an investment advice. Buy in the dip, sell it high. So that's what it happens normally.
Yeah, easier said than done. Actually,
very difficult.
Yeah,
it is
websites.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, there are websites which track the sell orders, actually. So there's a huge mountain of sell order placed at 50,000. You can imagine if it's hit 50,000, I mean, it's close to $1 trillion worth of sell orders placed there. So if it does raise to 50, it will raise back down.
So
Anyway,
sell at 49.
this is
Sell at
investment
49.
advice, sir. So we'll just stay away from this one.
So apart from PayPal, in fact, Visa also, I think I remember very very clearly, in the beginning of last month, December, they had come out with the option that the rewards that you want, and it's not in India but outside India, the rewards you want, you'll get in Bitcoin. All right. So I think Visa also has agreed to that. Visa credit card पे अगर आप कोई swipe करते हो, तो आपको जो rewards मिलते हैं वो Bitcoin मिलेंगे. So that they have also said. So I think it's slowly coming into that mode wherein you can use that. Bitcoin credit cards are gaye. So I think there are companies which are issuing credit cards based on cryptocurrencies. So yeah.
Okay, right. Now there is a question asked that suppose we buy, sell, etc. on some Indian exchange and there is a dispute. Is there can it be taken up for redressal? And if so, by which agency?
Oh,
no,
okay.
can we elaborate, sir? What kind of dispute actually? Let's say you are on Unocoin. If the dispute is related to a sell order or a buy order, and like you put a stop loss and the stop loss not honored and all that, that is a trade dispute between you and the exchange. It's like any commodity or trade buy sell order dispute. So you take it in normal channel actually. But if an exchange runs away with your money, then it's a normal financial crime. You will file 420 and 421. But if you're looking for a specific agency that deals with crypto related crime, no, there's none. You could all these there was a gentleman called Amit Bhardwaj. He started a Ponzi scheme, Gain Bitcoin. 40,000 bitcoins is what he had when he ran away. He was finally caught, he was put in jail and all that. But there was no law, specific law. It was under 420 forgery and all that kind of laws under which he was sent to jail, and he served a couple of months. He's out on bail now. As the income tax laws are not adequate to tax it, likewise, the current deterrence value of law is not adequate to prevent crypto-related crimes.
Yeah. Because exchanges, they do have their own redressal mechanism. At least these top 3 exchanges we spoke about, and they have been good at it. But I think, yeah, you're right, Ajay. I think there's nothing right now which can support the customer.
Okay. Another question somebody is asked about P2P, person to person, Bitcoin buying and selling. I believe, I don't know, there is something called Paxful.
Paxful is a big company, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, Paxful. So the question that Ajay has asked is, can you tell if P2P Bitcoin buying and selling on Paxful or local Bitcoin are safe, as there it is obviously P2P?
Yes. So as I said earlier, not all transactions peer-to-peer are correct. Now, as I said, don't meet the person in person. Okay, in-person interactions are dangerous interactions, but there are peer-to-peer. I've had peer-to-peer interactions, so they are good if they are monitored and done well. So जिससे खरीद रहे उसका on Paxful as well as local Bitcoin, you can see the history of that particular person with whom you're transacting. Now, Paxful is a centralized company. They do the monitoring, they understand, they do the entire forensics. All right, they are present in approximately 100 odd countries where you can buy from using various methods. So there are 300 ways you can buy Bitcoin. But when it comes to local Bitcoin, it's a peer-to-peer and decentralized system. So you got to be careful on local Bitcoin.
So let me put it this way: you want to buy gold. The current rate is say 5,000, and there's a website that allows peer-to-peer sale of gold. There's one guy says, I'll sell at 4,900. Now there are risks. One is you go there with the cash, he takes the cash and then throws you out. Other is he takes the cash, gives you gold, but that doesn't turn out to be gold. So if people are new to crypto, my advice will be don't do it peer-to-peer, do it on exchanges. once you've been around a little bit, you will know which guys do good peer-to-peer, which are reliable
I agree.
and all that.
Completely agree. Thanks, Ajay.
Because
Yeah.
60% of crypto sales or more is peer-to-peer. And why would be that? In US, the feds, whenever they confiscate proceeds of crime, a lot of time they have been confiscating these cryptos also. And as per US law, auction. So a lot of people move in early and they buy crypto cheap on auction. And especially with the way market is moving, you put the auction money, you got it at say maybe 11,000. By the time the cryptos come to your wallet, it's 40,000. So a large sale is done off or offline or off exchanges in peer-to-peer. It does make sense. You will get cheaper coins and all that. But if you are new to crypto, don't do it. Just don't do it. Do it through exchanges.
Okay, right.
Makes
Now there is somebody who's wanting to mine Bitcoins. So he's asked a very pertinent question that doesn't the entity with the highest computer power stand to reap the most? Can someone, that means a miner, with a modest setup make any gains whatsoever?
Shantanu?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been a miner and I've had my machines as well, but I was mining Ether and Bitcoin somewhere else. Yeah, today I think it's very difficult for a person with having a small computing power to make a substantial amount of coins mined. Okay, so I think it's wise to hook yourself to a particular pool which is there. All right. So normally what people do nowadays is there are larger chunks of people जिनके पास में बहुत infrastructure है और आपके पास machine है, आप अपना computing power उनको दे सकते हैं. Okay, and then they share something with you. So that's a better methodology than doing it your own. Now, if you have to mine on your own, आपको पास machine होनी चाहिए. उस machine में पूरा blockchain आपको download करना पड़ेगा. I remember when I started doing mining, I had a simple laptop and I said, let me try to download the blockchain because that's what the mining software does. It will first download the entire blockchain, all right? And I said, let me try it on my mobile, on my laptop. So I had tried to download the entire blockchain. It said 9 years. मेरे कंप्यूटिंग पावर से 9 साल लगेंगे पूरे ब्लॉकचेन को डाउनलोड होने में. All right. So what your computing power has to be fantastic. अगर नहीं है, it's always wise to hook on to a different pool and then mine. Or maybe do cloud mining if you can do cloud mining. But I can't promise you.
No.
good or
Let's
bad.
put it simple. If you're thinking of mining from a home-based computer, no.
नहीं, कुछ
The
नहीं
money
मिलेगा.
that you will spend in paying for electricity will not even cover the coins. You need dedicated ASIC miners, and that too with large pools, and that too in countries which are cold and you're not paying for equipment cooling. Unless you meet this criteria, don't do it.
Yeah.
So the person can forget about mining and go more to exchanges and buy the Bitcoin. That will be cheaper. So we come to the end of this. There are other questions also, but I think they have generally largely been answered during this thing. And today's webinar has made me at least realize that I have to start from scratch to understand cryptocurrency more. And what I knew was barely adequate. So it's been a fabulous session, and you both have wealth of knowledge on this. There is no doubt on it. I'm very sure that all the people who've attended, including me, we've learned a lot from both of you. And before we put our precious money into this avenue, there is a lot to be researched, a lot to be known before we do anything which we might regret. So with this, any last words, Ajay and Shantanu, you would like to say?
Shantanu, you go.
I would say that we spent 5 precious years to understand the entire system, and now we're at a point where we are absolutely confident of this subject and this asset or this thing. I'm working in a company which is doing all this. I've created companies which are doing this, and but yeah, it takes a lot of effort to do your to do research. So please do your own research, do research well, and then only start working on this or put money in this. Thanks. Thanks for having me, sir. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ajay?
Ajay, anything from you?
one small experience, or rather, see what happens. I meet two kind of people who would like to ask about crypto. One who genuinely want to know कि ये है क्या मामला. And moment I start talking blockchain and all that, I can see they're already drifting and कि drink कहाँ है और कल कब मिलना है और खेलना कब है, which is fine. There is other kind who come with a preconceived notion that it's a scam. And instead of asking genuine questions, they argue. So please don't be the second kind. If you are convinced that it's a scam and nothing good will come out of it, then don't ask. Then it's a good idea to stay away from it if you are convinced, actually. But if you really want to know, then come with an open mind. Thank you.
Okay. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this webinar today. A very, very useful webinar, especially looking at the fear and greed that is abounding as far as especially Bitcoins are concerned. So I'm very sure everybody is gained today. I'm very happy that we decided to have this webinar today, and lots of people I'm very sure have gained from it. Thank you very much, Shantanu. Really grateful to you, and to you, Ajay, for sparing your time and relating your experiences here and your knowledge here. We all have tremendously gained from it.
Thank you so much, sir, for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you very much.